average, I read about 100 books a year, and roughly 90% of those books are done off of an e-reader. So I think it's safe to say that I have quite a bit of experience in the e-reader department. So much so actually that I actively own and use 2 e-readers from 2 different companies for different reasons, which I'll get into in a little bit. This is a Kindle and this is a Kobo, and needless to say, I'm always interested to see what's going on in this space because I spend so much time with my e-readers. When I found out that Kobo was coming out with the Kobo Libra Color, I was stopped in my tracks because I have never experienced e-reading off of e-ink technology that has color form. It's always been black and white. I'm so intrigued to see what that's like to see color in e-ink technology. There's certain books I would never get on ebook because of the lack of color, so I want to test that out with this. Also, this e-reader is compatible with the stylus, which makes it easy to take notes theoretically. What is this like? Is it worth it? These are the questions I want answered today. I figure a natural place to start is to unbox this thing, so let's go do that. I also want to note that although I was sent this as PR, I have not been compensated or told to do a review in any way. I'm doing this because I want to. And my full intention is to give you my honest thoughts in comparison to the other e-readers I've gotten to experience so far. Okay, let's go dive in. My Kobo is unboxed. I've got my stylus as well. And I figure the best way to just experiment with this is to do it together. But this is already a big change at the front cover where you see your library. All the covers are in color, which I gotta admit is such a nice touch. It looks great in person. It's a little dull, which I expected. Like, the colors aren't super vibrant, but like I said, I expected that with the e-ink technology that you weren't gonna get like that punchy color to it. As you can see how the color reads versus the traditional ink technology, e-ink technology. I was already playing around with the stylus a bit, but this is a really cool part to this Kobo. When you hold down this button on the stylus, your pen turns into a highlighter, so you can easily highlight whatever you want. I really like the fact that you can tap that highlight and now there are different highlight colors. Now the reason I like that is because sometimes when I'm annotating a physical book, I use different colors to mark different things. Like, you might use one color to mark plot points in a book and another color to mark your favorite scenes, or in a nonfiction book, particular sections or sentences that you want to revisit. So you can kind of almost create a legend for yourself based on the different colors of why you're highlighting something. Or you can just have fun with the fact that there's different colors that exist. There's also a blue that looks really striking, and the green. I think all of them look really great. And then when you're not holding down that side section, your stylus is just a pen. So I can underline things, or I can add stars, or I can say, wow. I can also change the size of my pen and make it thicker and make it a different color. So we can go real crazy here. I will say, because I'm so used to using a stylus with my iPad, my instinct is to double tap to undo, which is how a lot of programs on iPads work. But this does have an eraser that is very simple to use. I'm just not used to actually using an eraser on a stylus, but that's a really great way, a really natural way to do erasing. Also, if you go in landscape mode, you'll notice that the highlights stay there, but all of those little doodles I did kind of disappear because I've just changed the orientation of the e-reader. So if I tap here, then I can see those notes again. I think that aspect is a little clunky, but not the worst thing in the world, because obviously you can just put it into the orientation that you made the note in. But if you're someone who does a lot of like this and this while reading a book, like you keep going between different views, then I could see how your notes might be a little jibbled. I also am not used to having buttons on the side of my e-reader. I know so many people love buttons for turning pages. I've never had a huge problem with touchscreen flipping pages, but I know some people just really love their buttons. So I'm curious if I'm going to be converted to the button life. One thing I do like about the writing function is that there really is no limits to where you can draw text. You can go over words, you can go over highlights. Like I said, I've never used a stylus with an e-reader before, so I am curious to see if this is a feature, particularly the writing notes aspect, that I will use. I definitely think I'll use the highlighting tool because I already use that, and I think it'll just be more fun to visually have a color attached to it. But this could be a really fun play here because I never like to mark up my physical books too extensively with thoughts and ideas because I don't want to ruin the fiction book. I don't know, something about a fiction book, I like to preserve a little bit of its naturalness. But this would be a lot more fun because it's low commitment. If I want to get rid of it, I can just erase it. And it's like it never happened. Now, this stylus also opens up opportunities with the notebooks section. I've never used this before. I know so many e-readers now are coming out with styluses and notebook functions, but I've really only done note-taking on my iPad. There are a few different types of notebooks that you can do. I'm gonna start first with the basic notebook. Let's do dots. Please excuse my poor handwriting here. I'm still adjusting to this, but I will say I'm surprised by how responsive this stylus is. I was worried there'd be quite a delay with when my pen is hitting the screen versus when the writing appears, but it's pretty close. I love that you can resize things and move it around. A little clunky, obviously, than what I would have on my iPad. I also want to try creating an advanced notebook. So with this advanced notebook, it makes it easy to write in handwriting. So journal once a day, and then you can tap and it converts it into text. That's pretty good. There are like some errors though. So like here, 13 pages a day, that 13 or that 1 in the 13 was supposed to be a bracket. Maybe I just didn't have a really strong bracket. Yeah, I can see how it would have been confused by that. Oops, let me try that again. There we go. In the notebook, you can also do different brushes. There's fountain pen, calligraphy pen. I think for note-taking, the ballpoint pen is definitely the best option. It's the most clear. They have a good assortment though of layouts. Like I love the fact that there's storyboards and meal planners, ones with margins in them. I feel like margin narrow is a fantastic reading notes layout because then you can put your page number here. So page 5. The one thing that I will say I wish was easier to do with the whole note-taking in notebooks aspect is being able to flip easily between your notebook and the book that you're reading. Because right now you have to essentially back out of the book, go to my notebooks, pick your reading notes journal, and then add your note here. Whereas it'd be nice if it would just be something you can swipe over to or swipe between so that there's not those extra steps, because then I feel like you would be more inclined to take notes in a notebook. I might have to investigate too if there's a quicker way to do that, because that's very possible that I'm just missing it. The next day I actually went to an event with Kobo where they did an annotation workshop, and there is a hack to switching between the notebook and the book quickly. You just swipe at the top of the screen and you can easily flip between the two. So reading notes are much easier with that shortcut. I really want to do a cookbook desk, so I rented from my local library a cookbook called Cookie Class. I actually have physically in person as well. As mentioned, colors are not going to be as vibrant because of the e-ink technology, I presume, but it isn't enough to make the e-reader experience with a cookbook still a good alternative. Let's see. So I'm gonna go to bananas. We got our bananas page. Pretty easy to follow so far. And then here is the images of the banana cookie and this one right here. Can we draw on these? Yes, we can. That's so cool. I don't mind this. Like here, you can tell that's orange, black, white. I think that's what's important about a cookbook, is when you're able to use the visuals to really help guide the cooking experience. And here you have the added benefit of, again, writing notes. You could be like, oh no, I needed 2 pastry bags. It's always helpful to have notes from when you try a recipe directly on the recipe itself. Usually I'll just like write it on a post-it note in a cookbook, but this is really handy. This is an example of Antony in the kitchen, and this cookbook, I feel like the visuals are quite nice on e-reader form. I don't know, I find this aspect to color e-ink one of the most exciting parts because I don't read a lot of graphic novels or manga, so I don't have like that ache in my life, but wow, this is pretty cool. Is the Kobo Libra color worth getting? Let's get into it. Keep in mind this is based on my first impressions of using it. I am pretty impressed by the color technology. I think it's enough color to make a difference to the reading experience without taking away from the magic of e-ink. E-ink is great because if you were reading long hours, it's not supposed to irritate your eyes, which is one of the reasons why I don't typically read on my iPad or my phone as often. I will read on my phone if I'm out and about and I'm like stuck in line somewhere or in a waiting room. But when I'm late night reading, I want to try and remove as much screen time as possible. And e-ink e-readers is what I feel comfortable using, especially at night when I'm trying to not like put too much blue light into my face. If I'm not going to read a physical book, this feels like a better option. I love the fact that the color aspect opens the door for new ebooks I wouldn't have considered reading before, like cookbooks. I love the fact too that you can highlight in different colors. I feel like that makes it more realistic to the experience of highlighting a physical book and changing highlighters for different types of things that you want to take note of. I also really do like this Kobo stylus. This is the second version of the stylus, and I think it makes annotating on your book so fun. Again, it's opening up an aspect to my reading journey that I don't typically explore, because previously I've only been able to highlight on my e-readers, but the stylus makes it possible to add little doodles and little reactions like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened, or gasp. All in all, it feels like a pretty solid e-reader, and I'm really excited to see where this e-ink technology goes in the color department in the future, and how things even get better with the stylus integration. Like I said, this is my first time using a stylus. I know they've been around for a little bit now in the e-reader world, but I suspect they're only going to get a lot better. As I mentioned, I already own a Kobo. This is the Kobo Aria. They don't make this anymore, and this is the Kindle Paperwhite Signature Edition. I use these very differently. I started my reading journey on a Kindle, so one thing that kind of keeps me tied to my Kindle is the fact that I have a huge library of ebooks on here, but I also love the KU Kindle Unlimited subscription service. It's $9.99 a month. You get access to I think 20 books at a time on your Kindle, and you can swap them in and out for different books that are part of KU. But I love my Kobo because with Kobo, I'm able to rent from the Toronto Public Library and access ebooks I rent directly on my e-reader. In Canada, or at least like with the Toronto Public Library, you cannot send rented ebooks to your Kindle. It's only with Kobo. Overdrive has an exclusivity with Kobo. Now, because I've talked about this before, I have heard that there are exceptions. Some places do allow you to send it to Kindle, and there are also workarounds for Canadians by getting library cards from libraries that you're technically not under the jurisdiction of. I like to support my Toronto Public Library, so I'm happy to do that on my Kobo. I've been taking advantage of my local library for renting ebooks more and more. I love to just even getting the audiobook version of a book that I have, or an ebook version of a book that I have in physical copy, so I have more options in how I read a book too, like especially if I'm doing a lot of traveling and I don't want to take physical books with me, or I'm taking a lot more walks these days and I want to read but also walk, so I get the audiobook without having to pay for the audiobook price. Just so many more options that open up by using my local library more. So I love the fact that I can do that on my Kobo, and admittedly I really do love the Kobo Aria. I think it's the size of it. So when I look at this in comparison to the Kobo Libra, I feel like there's a bit of a downgrade in screen size. This feels much more comparable to my Kindle's reading size. If you already own a Libra and you're trying to debate on whether you want to embrace the color one, I really don't think it's a must-have. But if you want to explore more varieties of books that do have color as a bigger part of the reading experience, then obviously I think it's really worth it. I think it's a little bit more worth it if you get the pen with it too, which I think this retails for $80. These two together bring this e-reader duo at a more $300-ish price point. You get the added benefit of being able to annotate. So if book annotating and book note-taking is something you want to do more of, I think this is awesome. I don't think though, as far as the notebook goes, my first impressions give me any sort of instinct that this is a replacement for a tablet. If note-taking is what you are wanting and you just want an e-reader on the side, I do still think a tablet, an iPad is stronger in the note-taking department. Like, it's just a better, smoother more intuitive experience. But as someone who doesn't like reading off of her iPad, I love like the annotation opportunities that are opened with this duo right here. So I guess my answer for if the Kobo Libra color is worth the upgrade is it depends. I know that's not a great answer, but I really do think it really depends on what existing e-reader you have. If you do own an e-reader. If you don't own an e-reader and you're looking for a new one to enter the market with, I think this is a really all-around solid e-reading device that will cover all of your bases and kind of future-proof you hopefully for the next little bit, because I am sure that color e-ink is going to be the staple, the new standard to a lot of e-readers going forward. I also am very curious to know if their release of a clear case for this Kobo device is a result of all of the interest that people have had lately in decorating their e-reader cases. I've been doing a lot of those videos over on my Instagram. I've even posted them on YouTube Shorts of me creating custom Kindle cases, and every time I do that I get questions about whether or not there are clear cases that exist for Kobo devices, because so many people have Kobos too, and I know it's been hard for some people to find those clear cases, but now Kobo's come out with one for this, so they're clearly trying to make those people happy, which is awesome. So this opens up a lot of great custom case making opportunities too. I think the future of e-readers is about to get really exciting, which is thrilling because I feel like for a handful of years now it's felt kind of stagnant. So I like the fact that Kobo has spiced things up a bit with this new edition. As a lover of books too, I think just being able to see the book covers in color is super thrilling, because typically that's something you miss out on, and I am guilty for sometimes buying a book in physical form that I just love because it looks so beautiful and I want to see it and all those colors in person that I previously had never been able to kind of see in e-reader form. So this is possibly even gonna stop some impulse purchases. If you own an e-reader, I really want to know, what e-reader do you own? What do you love about it? And are you excited by the color e-ink technology that is coming? Does it have a use case for you? Are you interested in book annotating? Is being able to add notes and highlights in different color something that is intriguing or feels like a gimmick? On that note, I think I'm gonna go do some reading. I'm inspired for obvious reasons. I'll see you soon with a new one, and until then, bye guys.
Never met someone like you, felt something like your touch.